This Week in Startups is brought to you by HostGator, your one-stop shop to getting your business online. Your domain name, website, website design, and even your marketing. They've got you covered. Have questions? Their team is there 24/7 via chat, phone, and email to help you. Start today for 30% off with coupon code TWIST. And Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and today on the program, one of the companies I've actually angel invested in. It's called Stowaway. They make a small makeup pack, and it's a really, really amazing, innovative company. And I talked to the female founder about being a female founder and building a great company in a $60 billion market where there are massive incumbents. There's all 10 people who control the entire industry. And she's going to go in there and crack it with this incredible product. And we're going to talk about direct-to-consumer. And this is a huge revolution where you take out the middleman. You take out retail. And instead of having Sephora with this huge store and all these people in it, you go direct to the consumer and you pass on the savings to them. It is a very, very massive new trend in our industry. Mack Weldon, Warby Parker, tons of companies are saying, screw it. No retail. All these shopping malls going away. Poof. Don't add value. We're just going to sell direct to the consumer and pass on the savings. Amazing. Stick with us. Great episode.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups, the show where we talk about entrepreneurs who are crushing it, making new products and services in the world. And you know, I invest in a lot of companies. I try to be the first check-in. That's sort of my goal, is to be the guy who believes in you before anybody else does. And I don't know, about a year ago, I met these two crazy kids. They had an idea. They wanted to reinvent the makeup industry. And I said, wow, that sounds insane, impossible, and crazy. How do I sign up? And I met them, and I started hearing their vision. And I was like, I really don't know anything about makeup, obviously. I mean, they put makeup on me during the show, obviously. But, you know, I don't really know too much about it. But it made sense, and the passion was there. And I always look, people ask you, how do you pick your investments, Jason? How do you know? And I said, well, number one, knowing that nobody can know is the first rule. Nobody can know. So once you free yourself of trying to be a genius and predict the future, you can become a better angel investor if you look at two things, in my opinion. Number one, is the person passionate and knowledgeable about this subject? When you talk to them about it, do they have the depth and the knowledge that leads you to believe that they're not going to run out of steam when things get hard? And number two, are they executing at a high level? Because you can look at the documents they write, the emails. Do they show up on time for a meeting? Do they answer the questions that you have in a forthright, tight manner that makes you build confidence in them? Are there materials, logos, company name, well thought out, design, mock-ups, all that kind of stuff? And so when I met Chelsa Crowley and Julie Fredrickson, I got that sense. And I was absolutely convinced I was not going to invest in your company because I was like, this doesn't make sense for me to invest in a makeup company. But then when I saw the execution level, that's what drew me in. So welcome to the program, Julie.
Thank you.
When did we meet?
Oh, gosh.
It's over a year ago.
Yeah, at least maybe a year and a half at this point.
A year and a half.
Yeah, it's been a fast year and a half.
It's been a fast year and a half. So we met, somebody put us in touch and said, hey, this is an interesting company. And I looked at the deck, and then we met. What was the pitch for Stowaway at that point in time? Yeah. And how has the past 18 months been?
So the pitch, well, it's interesting. You wouldn't immediately think that cosmetics would be the kind of industry that's ready to be disrupted by technology necessarily. But it turns out that cosmetics is just an inherently backward industry. It's really still operating in the 1950s, a lot of their practices, a lot of the margin structures. And so our initial pitch to you was, why is it so hard to find makeup that you love in sizes that you can carry and finish? Which as a guy probably didn't immediately resonate. But the principle of it was that makeup right now is sold in sizes that are essentially Costco size. So imagine if you were buying food only in sizes you could never finish before it expired, right. And then you had to lug around a giant vat of it with you at all times. And
here's your keg of milk.
Yeah. here's your keg of milk, except your milk is in your purse all the time. So there was just something that was really upsetting about the makeup industry to myself and Chelsa. Now, Chelsa is a makeup artist
And
of long-standing.
her name is pronounced Chelsa, because I've been calling her Chelsea all this time.
Yeah. Well,
Chelsa.
Yeah. So Chelsa Crowley.
I feel like an
Julie
idiot right now. Chelsa.
We're just nice that way.
Yeah.
We'll take any naming that's close enough.
Yeah.
So Chelsea actually got her start behind the makeup counter.
Right.
So her background's very much in the depth of the product and the knowledge. And from her perspective, she was furious at the makeup industry and it's selling products that just are not good for women. They expire before you finish them. You carry them around, and they're just not designed for the kind of lifestyles that her clients were leading. And then from my perspective, I'm actually an e-commerce person. I've always really worked in e-commerce. So I was like, well, this is interesting. Why aren't we selling makeup online? Why is it that you have to go to a makeup counter? Why is there so much inefficiency in the space?
Yeah.
And we started digging into it and realizing that there were just a host of nasty issues in the cosmetics industry. And it's a $60 billion a year industry just in the US.
It's amazing.
It's huge. It's to the point where I think men maybe don't fully have an appreciation for just how much their wives and girlfriends and friends are spending. And it's quite enormous. And what's really creepy about it is that 70% of the industry is consolidated into 10 conglomerates. So Estee Lauder and L'Oreal just dominate. And
Right.
it's an industry that just hasn't had the kick in the pants that it needed. And we're like, screw this shit. It needs the kick in the pants. We believe that it can be.
Right. And the issue around, this is what I thought was the most fascinating. When you guys explained to me that the reason they sell the big things is because if they sell the small things, well, if people start choosing those, there's less margin.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Because
always
the makeup doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
That's the secret,
So-
or the dirty little secret.
Yeah, the dirty little secret. So there's a little show and tell here.
Yeah.
So this is a standard size lipstick, right?
My wife's got 100 of these things.
Yeah, 100. Well, and they're all $40 a pop. We buy tons of them.
Unbelievable. $40 a pop.
Yeah.
And the makeup in there is like an ounce or two. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an ounce or two. The cost of goods is actually relatively low, but the trick of it is so just compare this kind of size. I'm trying not to show the logo to ours, which is half the size. So part of our premise was half the size, half the cost. But the reason that no one is selling something at these smaller sizes is they're all wholesalers, right? They have to sell to Sephora, to Nordstrom, to Neiman Marcus. So they need to make their margin, and then they need to make sure their retail partner makes margin. And I just
Double
think,
margin.
Yeah, double margin. I think it's a bad consumer experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you should be getting the best possible price. And what was really fascinating to me is I'm convinced that the future of retail is the end of wholesale, that now we can reach consumers in new and more efficient ways. And I think that the cosmetics industry has been allowed to get away with crap for too long because they make a ton of money, right? Like EBITDA-wise, like they're actually doing fine. But just because they're profitable doesn't mean that you're being efficient. And I think efficiency is really the key.
Right. So, and you have to pay for this massive overhead of the Sephora store, which is, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a ton of people working in there. But how much of that is the actual margin? It's probably half the cost or a third of it
Yeah, exactly. Well,
goes to that.
and then not only are they worrying about paying for Sephora, they're also worried about paying for these celebrity faces, and they're all very expensive. I mean, let's be realistic. Estee Lauder's paying, Kendall Jenner, and she doesn't come cheap. Those Kardashians,
They're expensive.
They're
It's got to be
pricey
5 or
ladies.
10 or $20 million. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and that's on the conservative side. And and the thing is all this information is publicly available to investors, right? They're publicly traded companies, so you can go in and dig into the 10K, which is exactly what Chelsea and I did. We're like, if there is demand, because we would buy this product, why is there no supply? And that was that key moment where we realized that there was no supply because they're sitting pretty. And anytime there's a big industry that's heavily consolidated sitting pretty, that's the time technology is coming in to say, fuck this noise.
Yeah. So now what about the waste?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is my wife's got these, lipstick containers and all this stuff, like literally drawer after drawer after drawer of it. And then when I met you, you're like, yeah, a lot of this stuff gets old, bacteria, gunk, whatever. It's kind of gross.
Yep.
So you don't wind up using it. I always look at all the wasted makeup she has, and I see the same makeup. She has some of the same makeup, I'm certain, because I can recognize a couple of things now from there on the counter in the bathroom. I know she's had this since we've been together for it's over 10 years now.
Oh yeah, and that's normal. That's actually regular behavior.
Is to have makeup for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and so you want to know the scary thing? Mascara expires after 3 months. 3
months.
Now, just sort of take a look here, right? So basically what we're saying is if you compare our mascara to, this is a standard size mascara, right? And so ours is half the size. Now, the reason it's half the size is as we're fitting in a reasonable amount of product, just look at how much longer the brush is, right?
Yeah.
That brush doesn't serve consumers. It's just so that you can feel like you're getting a better value, right? It's larger. And women would prefer to have things that actually fit into their lives so that they go into their purse. And it's just, the cosmetics industry is deliberately obfuscating these issues.
Right. So you can produce this stuff. To put more product in, though, the incremental cost of putting more product in doesn't cost that much.
No. Well, and that's the thing. This has an identical cost of goods to this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, well, and that's the thing, right? Like that's why they won't sell something smaller, because if it has the identical cost of goods, you may as well sell the bigger thing, mark it up. And
right, harder to get $50 for the lipstick if it's tiny.
Well, in our perspective, I don't need $50 for this. I'm perfectly happy with 15 because I don't need Sephora.
Right, because you can go direct.
Yeah.
So when we get back from the commercial break, I want to talk about getting the first product out and how the sales have been. As an investor in the company, I'm really interested, and we've been getting great updates from you. Thank you. But I want to hear what you learned putting the product into the real world and what you would do differently or what you will do differently in the 2.0 of the Stowaway Cosmetics product when we get back from this important break. Hey everybody, let me stop for a moment and tell you about HostGator. You can stop thinking about the business you want to do and you can just do it. The first step is web hosting and a domain name from our friends at HostGator.com. It's a one-stop shop for your online business. You can set up WordPress, drag and drop builders, easily set up custom email addresses. They have in-house design, SEO, and PPC, pay-per-click services. So as you grow, you'll be able to easily transfer from your $4 a month shared hosting account, and you'll have dedicated services, VPS, all that great stuff, 24/7, 365-day a year live support via chat, phone, or email. We love them so much that Twist is hosted with them. That's right. It's super affordable compared to things like Amazon. They have reliable service, and we've had a really great experience with them. It's super quick to get set up, and everything is clearly explained and very nice and neat with screenshots and everything. The first 100 Twist listeners that sign up with the promo code TWIST25 will receive 1 year of HostGator hosting package for just $25. That's right, TWIST25, and you will receive the 1 year of the HostGator Hatchling package for just $25. This includes tons of disk space, unmetered bandwidth, MySQL databases, and multiple custom email accounts. So don't worry, if you're not one of the first 100, you can still save 30% using the promo code TWIST. Thanks again to our friends at HostGator for hosting thisweekinstartups.com and for providing all this great service to our listeners. Go ahead and thank at HostGator on your Twitter handle. Okay, thanks again, HostGator. Let's get back to this amazing program. Hey everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. My guest is Julie Fredrickson, and she is the co-founder and CEO of Stowaway Cosmetics, which I am lucky enough to be an investor in, stowawaycosmetics.com, at Stowaway on Twitter. Now, what does that retail for, that little set? Because I remember when we were looking at this, you had like a 5-piece set or something. Is it 3 pieces? How many pieces?
Yeah, so the average woman actually wears 8 items at a given time, which I think men might not realize. So we wear a lot of different items. So I don't have the full set right here. I only brought comparison pieces, but we sell 6 different items, and we like to call it the little black dress of beauty because it's everything that you need. Now, it retails for $75. If this were a full-size prestige set of products, typically, now we're the same caliber of formulation, but that would retail anywhere between $150 and $200.
Got it.
So we're very much half the size, half the price as part of our selling point.
And it's half the size, half the price, but is it half the amount of product too?
So it's actually, it depends on the product. So some things are actually relatively similar in terms of product, but part of it is that less product is actually part of our selling point because we want you to finish it. Like, as a consumer, you should be buying things that you actually use because throwing things away is a frustrating experience when you're investing your hard-earned dollars.
Yeah. So, wait, there's 6 items.
Yeah, 6 items.
Let me see, as a guy, exactly how inept I am at identifying makeup. Obviously, lipstick and mascara are easy. Then I think there's got to be like a powder or a blush and an eyeliner.
Yeah.
Are those 3 different things?
So the 6 different items are a BB cream, which is a complexion product. I don't have it pulled out here. A concealer, which is for under eyes. It's I'm exhausted, but you can't totally tell because our concealer is pretty solid.
Talia does a good job with me with the under my eyes. I'm tired. I've been up all night playing cards, and we get rid of those bags under my eyes.
Right. Yeah. Everybody needs it. Then we've got 2 eye products, eyeliner, mascara, a lipstick, and pot rouge, which can be used on both lip and cheek, but most women use it on their cheeks. So it's 6 basic items.
Got it. So how did it sell in the first iteration, right? And You guys put it out there. It wasn't a Kickstarter, right? We didn't do
No,
Kickstarter.
so Kickstarter actually will not allow you to raise for personal care products on their site. It's considered a liability issue.
Yeah. But Indiegogo?
So I don't know what their history is. I suspect there are probably similar issues. There are actually a lot of interesting issues around like safety and sealage and making sure that it's very well kept. So we kept it very above board the whole time. So
got it. So it didn't make sense to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But you did do pre-sales and a big marketing push, right?
So we didn't do pre-sales.
No pre-sales.
We very much hit the market and then went out, and the response was actually pretty tremendous. And I'm very pleased that we were prepared for it.
Yeah. And so what did you learn in the 1.0 as a product manager and sort of putting it out there that you would have done differently? You know, as a startup, you need to work on to sort of make this grow.
Yeah. Well, I think we got the product right, and I think that's pretty rare. And one of the reasons we got the product right is that we spent a year in development on the product.
So I was going to say, this took a long time.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is that if it's a product that you're putting on your face and it's a very intimate product, you know, women really take their makeup seriously, we wanted to do it right. There couldn't be any mistakes. So we spent quite a bit of time developing not only the formulations, you know, it wasn't like we bought things off the shelf and put it in packaging. We went and custom developed everything. Chelsa has a real depth of experience in this. So we spent a lot of the first 6 months of the company touring factories, meeting with cosmetic chemists, figuring out packaging. I've got a whole library of just crazy different packaging samples. So we actually didn't go out to fundraise until we had product, because it was a little bit like we were a hardware startup, right? Like you needed the prototype and then we had to put it into production.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, and speaking of credibility, like, so I'm coming into a space where I know nothing about it. And I was like, well, the fact that you've actually gone and actually done the product design first on your nickel and figured it out, it made it a little bit easier to make the decision. And people always say, like, oh, come meet with me about my idea. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people have had the idea to do more efficient makeup, and there's been direct-to-consumer makeup before.
Yeah, there's been a couple of examples, although I think it's actually a surprisingly underfunded space, and I'm convinced that cosmetics and beauty will be to venture capital as food was last year. It's an industry that hasn't seen a lot of interesting innovation, and I think more and more startups are starting to come out. It just happens to be that Stowaway was one of the first to hit the market, but there are definitely people coming up behind us.
Yeah, I think the food's a good analogy, where it was like, why would we ever get involved in food? And it's like, well, how can we not be involved in this after we've seen Airbnb and Uber tackle, you know, hotel rooms and transportation? Well, obviously, if you can do hotels and transportation, you're going to be eating food.
Yeah.
You
know,
be
carrying your makeup. Well, sometimes, no pun intended, the smallest ideas can actually have the biggest impact, and realizing that there was a whole industry that just had not been touched. I mean, I feel like for me, that's why I was like, hell yeah, I'm throwing my whole life and my savings into this. Like, this is such a big opportunity that no one is seeing.
Now, previously, you did a lot of like affiliate marketing stuff and marketing on the internet.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that I thought was kind of an advantage too, because Chelsa had she had dialed in the makeup stuff. She worked at L'Oreal, or where'd she work? So
she spent her whole career at different Estee Lauder companies.
Yeah,
and that's actually, it's a sort of a fun fact. You can work in the cosmetics industry your entire career at one conglomerate, at multiple different brands. So she's been at multiple brands like Clinique and Bobbi Brown, but had always been under the Estee Lauder umbrella.
Got it. So she had a lot of domain expertise there. You had a lot of domain expertise in selling stuff or marketing stuff online.
Yeah. Well, it's not a field of dreams. It's not if you build it, they will come. You have to be able to get out there. And we knew that the product had to be as good as the overall experience of how we provided the product to the customer.
Yeah. And so what is the secret to selling direct to consumer on the internet, and what's worked so far?
Yeah, so what's worked so far, I think, is actually, and this, of course, sounds a little bit sort of, pat, but women share online, women talk. And so in my background, previously, I had an affiliate startup that Pop Sugar bought, and that I had gone into direct selling with big brands like Ann Taylor. And direct load traffic, if you're very lucky and very well known, will be, at most 20%, right? Like, that's people
direct load traffic, which is people typing StowawayCosmetics.com.
Yeah. And so if you're very lucky, a brand like Ann Taylor, everyone knows, 20% direct load, right? So we have consistently seen 50% direct load, which is kind of like, as an e-commerce person, like I had a moment of like, wow, women are seeing this product and sharing. And one of the things that I think we fucked up initially was not building in a better referral system from the start. We were very focused on getting up an MVP e-commerce product.
Right.
And now we're like, women are sharing, we need to reward them for sharing. So that's our
Yeah.
next big push is how do we build that out? Because I think like that's the secret sauce. Because most cosmetic companies have no data on their
They
customers.
don't have the email addresses of their customers.
At all. And we know
Yeah.
everything because like that's also part of the appeal, right? Like
Yeah.
these consumers want you to know so that you can make better suggestions. So I think that's going to be our secret sauce in the future is knowing when they're replenishing because most cosmetic companies, they need to come up with a new product to sell you something new. I know you're going to finish my product.
Right. And of the people who have your product, you should theoretically know 100% of their emails.
Yeah, 100% of their emails, they're over, like, we have so much more data. Well, and this is what I think is so sick about the cosmetic industry is they're handing their product and their livelihood to a retailer. So they have so the only person in the makeup industry that has customer data is Sephora. So if I'm Benefit or Clinique or Bobbi Brown or any of these brands, I'm blind to my customer base. And I think that's a terrifying prospect. 25% of Revlon's revenue comes from Walmart. If I were Revlon, I would be shitting the bed with that stat.
Shouldn't like Walmart just come out with their own house brand, or have they?
So Walmart's doing some
Not that I think a
investigation
woman
in
would
it.
particularly want to put on Walmart
Yeah.
mascara.
It probably wouldn't be my first choice. Well,
Yeah.
and drugstore mascara and down market mascara have some dirty secrets too. They're filled
really?
with preservatives and different types of chemicals because they need long shelf lives, right? Like if they sit in a warehouse for 3 years before they go on sale and you don't throw it away for 10 years, parabens and
And this
phthalates.
stuff is like going right next to your eyes. They go right into your eyes.
Isn't that terrifying? And I feel like especially mothers.
And on your lips. Ooh.
Right. Well, and I just
Skin. Ugh.
it's just one of those things where like we care about what goes on in our bodies. Why wouldn't we care about what's going on it? So I think safety is a
Yeah, because
whole
this stuff does
other.
permeate through your skin, and it's got to like your lips and your
Yeah,
eyes.
because so you lick your lips, you just don't know. And I think
So these are all natural. Is it? I mean, how do you describe the naturalness of a?
we shy away from all natural
Yeah.
because I think it's kind of a bullshit term. We say it's safe.
Got
And
it.
safety, I think, is really critical. So here's a terrifying statistic. There are only 11 banned ingredients in the United States, and there are 1,300 banned ingredients in the EU, because the EU knows that certain things are actually carcinogens, like they're endocrine disruptors. And I think young women in their 20s maybe don't think about it so much, but maybe you get a little older, you're starting, you're having kids, and you think, wow, like my young daughter is putting this, the product she's playing with my makeup, what's going on her body? And I think then you start realizing that there's more to the makeup industry than maybe you anticipated.
And there's no transparency or education that goes on there. So that's a great place for you guys to actually step in.
Yeah.
And sort of educate people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different areas for winning. And that's why we say it's makeup you love, because you got to have a good product. It's makeup you love in sizes you can carry because it's with you, and that you can actually finish. And that actually finish means there's a whole other set of interesting things around whether you're actually getting value, whether you're carrying products that actually might go bad. So there's a lot there, and I think that's why we were so excited. Is that like from small, humble beginnings, there's a ton of opportunity to be captured.
Well, and it also feels like the thing that attracted to me as an investment is, I was looking at it saying, wow, the industry's ripe for disruption. That's great. The value proposition seems very strong. When I talked to a couple of different women about it, they didn't all care about all the issues. But they all cared about one of the issues,
Yeah,
right? Or
exactly.
two of the issues. So when I was like, oh yeah, that's a small sizes, they're like, I have a big purse, But and then I was like, well, and you don't have stuff going bad, and like, oh, that's important. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of like the small is why it doesn't go bad, but I'm not going to bring that up anyway.
Yeah.
Like I get it,
I'll take any angle of approach.
whatever
that I can.
angle you want. Now, but with the affiliate stuff, would it not work epically if like it worked like Dropbox, where I get you to sign up and I get 5 megs free. So like,
Read
boom.
in my mind. Well, and so that's like the next phase. And that's why I think we're really excited to kind of keep moving and probably as we look to grow the company and possibly, go out for our next round of investment, is that because of the cost of goods, I want to reward you for sharing. And I don't want to reward you with $10. I want to be like, here's free product.
Yeah.
Like if you bring me enough people, as far as I'm concerned, you can have your makeup for free for the rest of your life.
Right, because there's margin here. We still have margin.
Yeah.
Because based on what you said before, the
margins are
markup's
still
4 or
good.
5x. Is
Yeah.
it 3, 4, 5x in the Sephora space, you think?
Yes.
5x?
Conservatively. They're so
It's hard to know.
it's hard to know, but the cost structures are pretty lucrative. Makeup is definitely the best of all the possible margin structures for retail.
So even for us, we have a decent market structure. So if we gave buy some, give a lipstick, get a lipstick, or anything like that.
Yep.
It would be fine because we're acquiring the whole customer.
Which we actually did when we launched the company. So for the first week before we launched, we said, if you bring people to us, you can earn makeup. And we actually did. We had hundreds of women earn free lipsticks. And actually we had a substantial number of people who actually just earned entire kits for free. And they've been some of our best and most advocate-oriented customers. Because once you try the product, it makes your life so much easier in so many ways that I think maybe we didn't even really anticipate. And just making sure that we continue to capitalize on it, which of course is a giant technical challenge and you wouldn't think about it, but so much of the business's success is based on enabling more of these women to talk and share and actually get the product.
All right, when we get back from this next commercial break, I want to talk about launching a makeup company with female founders in an industry where 97% of the people who are going to invest in your company are men who have no clue as to what you're doing when we get back on This Week in Startups. Hey everybody, let me stop for a moment this amazing episode and tell you about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Yes, they are a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. And Scott Walker is the founder of that company, and he is a personal friend of mine, and he does a great job working with startups. I have literally introduced him to dozens, maybe hundreds now, of startups, and they all rave about the services of the Walker Corporate Law Group because their lawyers have decades of experience. You're not going to get junior associates who are getting on-the-job training with your startup. No. They're going to help you with mergers and acquisitions, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies, formation, all this kind of stuff, fundraising, and they're really great at it. And they do fixed fees. They don't want to surprise people with crazy bills. They think that billable hours can reward inefficiency, so they'll just be fair with you. And that's what I love about them, because if you're a startup, you don't want to get that sticker shock and get a huge bill. Make sure you use the Walker Corporate Law Group, and you can do that by calling Scott Walker at 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. You can email him, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can visit walkercorporatelaw.com as well. Scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, and let Scott Ed Walker on Twitter know, @Scott Ed Walker, know that you watch the program and you appreciate him supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. One of my oldest advertisers, one of my oldest friends in the industry, just a great guy, a total mensch, and he really takes care of the startups who work with him. Thank you, Scott Walker, for supporting This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get back to this program. Come on. Hey everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. My guest today, Julie Fredrickson. She is the co-founder and CEO of Stowaway Cosmetics.com, which I'm an investor in. I invested last year or something like that, and it's been going great. And if you're interested in getting makeup that is in the proper size, that you can take it with you, does not have waste, is half the price and half the size, and it's totally safe, then go to stowawaycosmetics.com and buy some and buy it as a gift. It's just awesome. Thousands of people now using it, which is great. And you had VaynerMedia, so Gary Vaynerchuk's in as an investor. I'm in. Dave Morin, Slow Ventures, Kima Ventures, Metamorphic Ventures. I see that. Bunch of great people invested.
Yeah, we're really lucky.
You did good. However, you are female founders. Mm-hmm. With a product that is directed at female consumers. How hard was it to get funding, and how hard do you anticipate it's going to be with, let's say, the more venture capital crowd? Because you have the sort of micro VC super angel crowd right now. Yeah. Have you started talking to venture capitalists, and what has the reaction been?
Yeah, so we have been very lucky that we raised a great seed round and are now making good money because it's a product that people want. So we haven't gone out to seek additional investment. I'm sure because our ambitions are quite large. We're not just interested in being a makeup brand. We're interested in destroying the current structures of the makeup industry. So we will fundraise again. But I think we like to joke that on our seed round there are as many marks as women, which is just sort of a reality of the space. But I think with this product and what we're trying to do, being women was an advantage, right? I think you'd be hard pressed to go out and say, like, we really deeply, intuitively understand the problem if you don't wear makeup.
Right.
So I think we definitely had some advantages there, but I think the numbers speak for themselves. When you look at the makeup industry, it's so large, it's so consolidated, it's so backwards that I think if I were a venture capitalist, I would be salivating at the prospect of saying, wow, $60 billion a year in the US, that means it's 3 times the size of shaving. Women are spending 3 times the amount of money on makeup as you are on shaving. And there's plenty of venture-backed shaving companies that are killing it.
Yeah, that is interesting. The shaving companies are killing it. The makeup companies are kind of nascent right now. But that does speak to something. I guess VCs are like, it's easier to do something you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think increasingly, if we're all serious about, the upside, and I think we are, you have to really dig into the numbers and what it looks like, and not only look at the early traction, but have a deep understanding of what's going wrong in a space. And I think anytime there's areas with underinvestment, which I think cosmetics clearly is, there's opportunity. And I think we just consistently spoke to it, saying that 70% of the industry is consolidated into 10 conglomerates. They're all very profitable conglomerates. I think Estee Lauder is still trading at 8 times revenue, which you don't see a lot in publicly traded, established, high cap companies.
Right.
So I think it just shows you some of the advantages in the space. And I think anytime you have a shift, a material shift in the production and distribution costs of an industry, industries collapse, companies collapse. And I think that makeup is at a point in which we could see that collapse, that these old legacy companies, because of their refusal to innovate, are in a vulnerable position.
Now, have they started doing any direct-to-consumer, or that just kills their whole channel?
Well, so they're very heavily wedded to their retail partners. So I think I mentioned before that 25% of Revlon's revenue comes from Walmart. So as soon as they start moving away, Walmart has a lot of leverage over them. And it's one of the reasons, so I don't tell the story a lot, but I'll tell you is before I really went down the road of Stowaway, I was interviewing at a big makeup conglomerate, and they were looking at hiring me for a VP of e-commerce position. And as I went through the process, they started explaining more about what I would be doing with the budgets. And I was like, well, I don't really understand my P&L. Literally, the numbers don't line up. And they're like, no, you don't understand. You're not selling anything on our website. You're driving traffic to all of our partners. So you need to make sure that they're happy. And that was my aha moment. We're like, fuck.
Yeah.
All of my budget is going to someone else, and sure, they get you distribution, but the whole point of the web is that you should be able to find that distribution. And I think what is so sick to me about this is that in trying to make your partners happy, you're not thinking for the future, you're only thinking for the quarter, and they're publicly traded, so they have to see for the quarter. But I think analysts are smart, right? They'll start realizing it. And right now, less than 10% of all of their businesses are direct, and it really should be a lot higher because that's where the money is. That's where the margin is.
What about Mary Kay Cosmetics? And, because as an angel investor, I like to bring up topics and ask questions, although I can't tell you what to do. I like to have the conversation with you, just so we have this sort of more objective, like, okay, have we considered everything? I sort of see that as my role, because I can't tell you what to do. You got to do what's in your heart and what you believe to be true. But is there a possibility for us to ever do a Mary Kay-like thing, where if we know these certain women are passionate about our products, and they're already amplifiers for free makeup, and getting a couple of kits, like, well, can we get them the pink Cadillac by selling our stuff? Or is that icky?
Yeah.
How do you look at that stuff? Because some people consider that like MLM.
Yeah.
But it's more like, is it MLM or what's the? It's not MLM, because do Mary Kay people have multiple reps working under them?
Yeah.
So it is MLM?
I mean, it's an interesting question, right? Because I think we have seen Avon in particular really struggle with the modern world, and that a lot of more modern Avon reps, like they had launched this Mark brand, right? And it was a younger brand. And I think younger women that were selling Mark really wanted to use social media, and they did not get enabled by the brand, right? Mark and Avon didn't know how to set up stores for them. And I think it's been kind of an interesting sea change in watching Avon and Mary Kay realize that women don't sell door to door anymore, or they sell tweet to tweet.
Right.
Like we're actually engaging with each other in a very different way. So I don't know what's in store for Stowaway from that perspective, but I think that the inherent value in direct-to-consumer is that you are selling directly to your consumer. And I know that sounds like tautology is tautology, but anything that's developing that relationship, that's preserving the margin, I think has opportunity. And I don't know, I haven't built out the financial models around what it could look like for us, but never say never, right?
Right. It seems powerful in one way, but it does seem antithetical to preserving margin and getting the consumer the best deal. What should the margin be on makeup? Like, because I mean, when people buy groceries and other stuff, it's 10%.
Right.
Is it 100%? Is it?
Well, so makeup, and this is all publicly available information, right? Like, especially like if you dig through the 10Ks, which I'm the kind of person that does, the margins on the product are 80%.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of room to play, and there's a lot of, no pun intended, margin for error.
Right.
And so, if this were, being sold at Sephora, and this is why you can't buy the products now, right? This is why the only place you can buy more reasonably sized makeup is from Stowaway Cosmetics.
Right.
Is that this would have to be $30. So we had an amazing piece of press this month, I think in Good Housekeeping, where they actually measured it out, and they measured out the prices and the makeup, and just showed it, like half the size, half the price. And I think that is just such an easy premise for women to understand. And I think we probably have more margin that we could play with, but I also just like the easy messaging of understanding that you're getting that value.
Right. So what do you have to prove in order to get the Series A, do you think?
Well, I think for us, we have our own internal goals, and I'm not interested in going and pursuing more funding until I feel like we have actually achieved them. Because it's not just about saying like, oh, hey, there's demand. We've clearly established there's demand. A lot of people are really excited. The press has gone actually gaga for us.
That's great.
But
how did you get that press train going? Explain to the audience like what the secret was there.
The secret sauce really comes down to simple messaging and just repeating it over and over again, because as you've heard, I can go on at length about the margin structures, why it's interesting, what's going on, why products cost a certain amount, and we just kept to the basics. Makeup you love, sizes you can carry, that you can finish.
Right.
And just kept repeating it and making sure that you can grasp it, because I think entrepreneurs are always, and I'm so tempted to always talk about all the features, 3.
Yeah.
Repeat them endlessly.
You're right. And did you use a PR firm or did you just go direct? What's
So-
the best practice, you think?
I mean, I think it depends on the industry. So
Well, for a startup in, early on.
Yeah. Well, I think in our perspective, we knew we needed to be considered credible in the beauty press. And it's a very small world. Speaking of the consolidation of the industry, that also means that the people that talk about it and the editors are heavily consolidated too. So we did get a little bit of help to understand how to reach these women and how to talk to them. And I think, never be afraid, because we all know that there's a cost of acquisition. And sometimes it's very easy to calculate, and sometimes it's a little bit more fungible. And I think you calculate PR into whatever your overall CAC is and go from there.
Right. So being a woman in the industry, what's your experience so far? First-time founder. We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
We joke sometimes on Twitter when I mansplain stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I don't know. I guess I was raised in the technology industry. My parents were in it. And I guess technically it's my second startup, not my first.
Yeah.
Although I was so young at the time, I feel like, I got lucky. Hopefully this time I'm not lucky, I'm right.
Yeah.
And I love technology. I do.
Yeah.
I just think that Silicon Valley actually is a wonderful place for women. And I think sometimes we focus too much on the negative.
Right.
Or saying, oh, well, it's not an industry that's friendly. There aren't a lot of us. And, you only get the opportunities that you seek out. And I think sometimes I worry that there aren't more women coming up after me, and that, you do have to hustle, and you do have to fight, and you do have to be really, really, I guess I don't have them, but you have to be ballsy.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do it, male or female, it's just not the industry for you, because you're going to spend every single day just being brutally embarrassed. I fuck up 10 times a day,
Right.
but it's not how much you fuck up, it's how many times you fix those fuck ups.
Right.
And just getting back at bat. And maybe there's just social reasons women aren't comfortable with failing, and we have to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting in your generation. I always point you guys out as an example of like, I think there's a large contingent of women in your generation. I would consider you. Are you a millennial?
I guess I think of
You are.
myself as millennial.
Yeah, you're a millennial. Like it just seems like there's this contingent of women there who are like, well, I'm going to be a girl boss. Like I have what I want to do, and I'm going to pursue it. It doesn't seem like it's ever in your heads like I can't do it.
Yeah.
There is a contingent there that just feels like if I want to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, I think I got very lucky having supportive parents that always said, yeah, tinker, it's fine. And I grew up in a garage, filled with computer bits, and just I had a very homebrew kind of upbringing. And I think that the more young girls have that exposure, I think the more confident everyone will be that it's possible. And I think we do also have a socialization issue in which boys are allowed to be loud and girls are not. And you have to be loud to succeed in startups, because no one's going to listen to you unless you're like, hey, I am here and I've got an idea and let me show you my proof points.
Right. Just don't be bossy, all right? I talk to you about this bossy stuff. No, I'm always now with my daughter, I'm trying to train her to be president of the planet Earth. That's I'm taking her to the incubator. She's 5 years old, and people are like, you're bringing your 5-year-old to your incubator? I'm like, I just want her to stop by and see it.
Yeah.
And I'm explaining to her these people are starting companies. I'm giving them money. They're starting the companies, and they're 2 people, and they came up with an idea. What ideas do you have?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of my best memories as a kid is my dad was actually on a board of a company which I don't think actually made it, which was probably good that it didn't make it. And I watched one of their last board meetings. I had to have been like 7 or 8, right? I was a little kid, so I didn't really understand what was going on. And my dad was very patiently explaining to me, like, this is a board meeting. This CEO, like, has obligations and, like, he has a fiduciary duty, literally at 7. And I think the more we can expose women to this and have these understandings, like, she will run the world.
That's sort of my goal. Is I'm like, I have this like fantasy, like I'll just be like, here's the empire. Here.
Here you
oh,
go.
what you want me? I'm sorry. What pledge? You want me to give half of it back? Hell no. I'm giving everything I can to my daughter to rule the planet Earth. I'm not giving anything to charity. I'm giving it all to my daughter to build an empire. I'm joking. I'll give it all to charity.
I would totally be behind that. More girls making more stuff happen.
Well, listen, it's been great being an investor in the company, and it's great to see you guys off to a strong start. If anybody out there wears makeup, and or knows somebody who wears makeup, I hope you go to stowawaycosmetics.com and take a look and buy something. Now, what about a spokesperson? Caitlyn Jenner, perhaps? What's going on? Caitlyn Jenner is going to get a 10. She's going to get a $10 million or $20 million makeup deal. That's what I heard.
I would so be into that. Well, so I'm an avid player of the Kim Kardashian game. Now that I've just embarrassed myself thoroughly.
No, we had the guy who made it on the show.
So it was their 1-year
No,
anniversary.
Nick.
I love it. Totally not fronting on it.
Nicola.
But God willing. I don't know. So right now, regular women are our spokespeople. Like if you go to the site, you'll see my face, you'll see Chelsa's face, and you see our girlfriends, because I also think that,
civilians.
Yeah, regular people wear makeup, and I don't know, 18-year-old models don't really show you what it will look on you. You know what it looks like on me.
Right. Perfect. But so what about no spokesperson? Is that like something we think is going to be out of the question, like as a direct-to-consumer brand, or?
I'm not averse to the idea because I do think that there are endlessly inspirational women. I think that for us, it's more about showing that Stowaway enables interesting women, and I think there are probably interesting women that could be spokeswomen. Like, I would love for our spokeswomen to be CEOs and founders and just have it consistently be like, these are powerful, interesting women doing things. Some of them might be celebrities, right? Like, as far as I'm concerned, Kim Kardashian's totally the CEO of her own life.
For sure. I am very down with reality TV after seeing what she and Gordon Ramsay did.
Yeah, that woman has monetized attention in a way that none of us have ever achieved.
I know, that's what I was trying to explain to people. Like, startup companies are about capturing attention. And, some of the ways Kim Kardashian has captured attention are salacious and insane, or seemingly insane. But she's just generally good at it. Like, there's something she does that makes people want to pay attention to the next thing, like Howard Stern does, or just other interesting, fascinating people in the world.
Yeah,
so.
well, and getting attention. So one of our investors is Mark Ecko. And Mark Ecko being a really celebrated clothing entrepreneur. And one of the interesting things he told us, because he really helped us think about some of our branding decisions, he was like, no one will listen to you unless you tell them to listen. And making sure that we constantly reiterate that, like, there is something of value. And I think that's what's so interesting about this current generation of reality stars is they believe they're worth listening to. And you may or may not agree, but if they have determined that they're worth listening to and then they have monetized that, I can't even imagine, like, all of us should be so lucky as to be as talented at making money.
Yeah, exactly. All right, continued success. Everybody check it out. You can follow Julie at Almost Media. Yes, that's our handle, Almost Media. Okay, we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.